Alright guys, welcome back to the DuckHill workshop. My name is Ben, and today I have finally finished all the mortise and chisel work for the case frames. They're just off here sitting on the floor because they're standing up and they're assembled, and I'm really excited. I think we'll cut to a picture of them right here. But now I need to start working on the frames for the inset, or the panels, and I'm going to resaw them out of the silver maple. But one of the things that I noticed about the silver maple is it does have this rot hole, and then it's gotten some drying cracks. So the solution to that right now is going to be that I am going to mix up a little bit of epoxy and fill that in. So the first thing I have to do is coat these two pieces of wood in flashing tape. So I've got my 3M all-weather flashing tape, 8067. Yeah, it's actually really neat and nice. This stuff sticks like crazy. That's why it's got the special backing on it. And then I have to decide on what color it's going to be. I have some gold colors from Black Diamond. Those are like mica powders. I also have an eco-epoxy colored pigment set, and then the epoxy that we'll be using is Crystal Sheen from Sherwin-Williams. So, without further ado, let's get this done. And we're back. You can see a little bit. Last night's epoxy pour on the silver maple slab went really well. I've got a couple pieces on the edge that need to be filled in today. So I'm going to show you how to do that because I really didn't last night. And yeah, let's just get started. You might see my house guest, Jackson, wandering around. He's a big brown lab. But I think right now he's sleeping at your feet. And I've already got this set up. We're gonna mix, I'll show you how to mix this Crystal Sheen epoxy, and then we will get going. But first I just want to talk about, so when I mix this is the leftover from last night. Obviously I mixed way more than I needed. You mix 1 to 1, and it's just easier for me to mix an 8-ounce batch, so 4 ounces of the resin and 4 ounces of the hardener. And then the fun thing is once this has a little bit more time to cure, it probably would be fine right now, but I'll actually just slice this down into like coasters or something, so you're constantly reusing the product. And I'll do the same with whatever I mix up today. I don't know that I'm going to try and do a perfect color match. This was really interesting. This is this is white and black with 2 different colors of gold mica powder, pigment powder. So that's kind of interesting. But it also oddly matches the trim, or gets close to matching the trim. It's kind of a teal green in my mom's office. So happy accidents. And so yeah, so let's go ahead and mix down. I'll show you how to measure out the resin, add pigment, and then mix the hardener in. So let's do that. Alright, here we go. Starting with the resin. This is a 1-to-1 mix, so we're doing 4 ounces of resin and then 4 ounces of hardener. But mix all your color and mica powder into the resin first. It's a little bit thicker than the hardener, and once you add the hardener, it gets all, the viscosity changes, and then you mix for 2 minutes and pour as soon as you're done mixing.
in small quantities like this, some people will use a drill with a propeller bit, basically, to mix it up. I find that adds a lot of air to the mixture, and you end up trying to get bubbles out forever. So mixing by hand is just fine.
Alright, so now that that epoxy pour is done, I have to wait for it to dry. It'll take a few hours. Crystal sheen is like most chemical epoxies in that it's, I think this is exothermic. The reaction between the hardener and the resin generates heat. So it's one of the reasons why you shouldn't do really, really big pours with some of these products, because of the amount of heat generated by the epoxy. But, so it'll be actually kind of interesting as this puck that I'll eventually end up cutting the waste that I'll cut down to coasters or something, actually gets really warm. The other thing that happens is periodically you have to check on your pour, because there are little micro bubbles in the epoxy from the stirring, I don't know if that's part of the chemical process or not, but it does build little bubbles, and periodically I'll come by with my map torch and just give it a quick pass, because the heat and the pressure from the torch pops all those bubbles. But right now I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to take apart the frames here. Actually, I'll bring them over and show you. Yeah, I'm stoked about this. These are the two side frames for the cabinet case. We'll have floating panels here in the middle, which is obviously what we're working on here. But now what's going to happen, that's sitting on my table saw, is where each of these points needs to get cut out to make room, make a little ledge, so that the dust frame between each shelf, or I'm sorry, each desk, between each drawer it'll get set in, and then once they're assembled and I'm ready to glue up, those dust frames will actually they'll get doweled in place. Progress. Now that I think the slowest part was chiseling out all these mortises and rebates and bridle joints, now we can actually start moving and progress fast here this weekend. So, on to the next thing. It is snowing today, April 27th, and it is snowing. Oh, I love spring in Minnesota. All right, so now all of my epoxy pours have dried. I had some cracks on this side too. I filled them in. I just mixed up some gold epoxy, which is different than this kind of greenish teal, which is interestingly made by mixing black and white. We can go into the color theory of what the black pigment is made out of later that when you add white, it turns green. But interestingly enough, this is somewhat close to the color of the trim in my mom's office, so that works. Now though, I'm going to run this through the planer to get all the excess off, and then we'll start resawing on the bandsaw. Let's get started.
Okay, this process is genuinely terrifying, but my bandsaw is not set up to do resawing yet. So you can do this on the table saw as long as your workpiece is no more than twice the width of the maximum height of your blade, which is about 3¼ inches. So you can see that this isn't the greatest. There's a lot of waste. There's a lot of scorching of the wood. One, because I'm impatient and didn't do multiple small passes, instead opting to make a full cut. And here we go, planing these all down to about 1/8 of an inch thick to get all the burn marks out.
All right, so that is the progress we've made this week. That's epoxy pour, resawing, and fitting the cross pieces for the dust frames. I still have to figure out the dowel joints. I did some last night, but I was really, really tired and just made a dumb mistake. So I'm not going to finish those today. Plus, I need to get home and get this video done for you, and then I can come back and work on it next week after I've thought it through in my brain. The other thing I need to do before I head back to the office to edit is clean the shop. It is a mess, absolutely just disgusting at the moment. So I'm gonna spend a couple hours getting the shop cleaned up, put back together so it's easier to work in here so that I can get the rest of this jammed out next week. Hopefully that'll be the end of it. Get the cabinet all assembled. Well, maybe. Hopefully I will get the cabinet assembled and the top and get those two pieces finished and installed, and then I have to make drawers. So, which should be fine because this this cabinet is essentially a copy of the cabinet that is currently on my mom's desk. So it's about the same size. We just added a drawer. So she has 5 drawers instead of 4, or 4 drawers instead of 3. And then I'll be able to so the drawers are the same size. I'll just be able to take the old ones out and throw them in the new cabinet for now while I work on making the new drawers. Because that's going to take a little bit because I want to dovetail all the boxes, and I've never hand cut dovetails before. So that'll be an adventure. But yeah, now I need to clean. Otherwise I'm going to lose my mind. So hope you enjoyed all of this. Stay tuned. Obviously there's more coming, and until next time.